What is up, everybody? You already know what it is. I am your lovely host, Simone.
And I'm Nafis.
And welcome back to I Was Thinking.
Yay!
Wow, I sound more cheery than I usually do when we do this. It's been a while, guys. Yeah, hopefully this doesn't come into a once a month thing.
Right.
But we also have real lives.
Yeah.
And we don't get paid to do this. But we missed you. So we're back. We hope you missed us as well.
Mm-hmm.
How's it been, Nafis, since you've been... I mean, it's only been has it been I think it's been longer than a month, because when we initially recorded, it was May 12th.
Was it May? I think it's been May. About a month. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit more than a month.
Yeah, I've been good. School finished.
Good.
Graduations have happened. A lot of drama related to that graduation, but hey, we're done.
Oh my god, you know, I was curious because there's been a lot of videos that's been popping up online of graduations, just how students have been having their diplomas withheld if they're celebrating at their graduations. I feel like I saw a video of a fight, and I don't know what that happened, but
I saw that too, and I was like,
what is going on? I do not remember graduation being this drama filled.
Yeah, I don't know. It was so weird because my sister also graduated this year, and for her graduation, mind you, they are the graduating class is around 750 to 800 kids. They were not allowed to have their cell phones at all. So just trying to get in touch with her and finding her afterwards was so chaotic, and I felt like I was at an amusement park trying to find my lost child.
Yeah.
But that was that, which was I understand why they did that, because it's a long procession and you don't want it seems unprofessional to be on your phone. But that was annoying. But the graduation for my class that I taught it went relatively smoothly. But that's probably because the principal was really on their case. He's if you do anything, I'm going to stop the graduation, call you out by name, and make you go back and do it again. And so he really scared them as far as what to do and what not to do. But it turned out really, really good.
That's good for you guys. I always remember graduation being strict, but not that strict.
Yeah,
it's
getting
unnecessarily strict to where it almost takes the joy out of it.
Right.
It's weird. I don't know. And I didn't go to a college graduation because of COVID. Mm-hmm. So I skipped out my community college one because I was waiting for university, and then COVID happened. So I didn't get to experience either. But still.
Yeah, it's so different from last year's graduation, because last year, I would stand at the end of the seats and I'd hug everyone as they come in to go back to their seats. Mm-hmm. Nothing like that. They had to grab their things and go straight back to their seat. I'm no, that takes away from the intimacy of it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many students when I graduated. I don't remember the exact number, but we didn't hug anybody unless they'd known them personally throughout the school year. We just shook hands, but...
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there were so many hands these kids had to shake. It was it was a literal line down that entire stage. There was probably a 2-person gap in the middle, but after that, it was just everyone and their mother was on that stage. It was so funny.
That's crazy. Well, I'm glad you didn't have any crazy graduation stories I have been seeing online.
Yeah, no, nothing like that. Whatever drama I was mentioning was before and after between people. But the graduation ceremony itself, thank God, was smooth.
Good.
Yeah.
I forgot to say this before we actually started recording. I apologize if my audio sounds worse than it usually does. It's actually pretty good, but I'm going back old school style and recording on my iPad because I had said this in a little interlude in our last episode. When I moved, I thought I lost my adapter to hook up my microphone to my MacBook, and then me and Nafis were laughing before we started recording because I literally just found it in the bag that I am using. So I'm well, I'm glad I didn't pay for a new one, but I spent about, I don't know how long looking for it, thinking I had lost it or accidentally, put it in a bag that I gave away when we were cleaning. But it's fine.
You paid for it with your energy.
That I did. But anyway, as you can see, we have something to actually talk about today. It's not just a ramble episode, even though you know us, we get on tangents a lot. But we are back with a movie review to get back into the groove of things, the swing of things. Mm-hmm. So... should I ask you how you felt about this movie now or later? We are doing a movie that is on Netflix called Unlocked. I think I expressed this last time we recorded with Macy. I don't have access to her Netflix account anymore, but capitalism got me. Yeah, I'm going to admit it. I was weak, guys, and I got my own
Netflix account.
Capitalism beat me, okay? It beat me this round.
Just this round.
Hopefully just this round. You know, I still have to survive.
Yeah. But I mean, you have all that other stuff too. You have Hulu, Disney. You have Disney Plus, right?
I have the bundle of Hulu and Disney Plus, so it's like a deal where it's only like $11, but that I pay with ads. This one I didn't want to pay for ads on Netflix.
Gotcha.
So those are the only things I have, I think. Hulu, Disney Plus, and Netflix.
You don't have
and I guess
Apple
Amazon
TV?
Prime. I don't know if I have access to it or not. You have to pay for that? Or do you get it when you have Apple products?
I think you have to pay separately. I'm not sure. You should check into that.
Yeah, because I have Apple Music that I have to pay that I still use my student discount on. Actually, I might have it because I think if you have used the student discount, you get Apple TV with the student discount.
Yeah, definitely check into that. Imagine you've been paying for it this whole time and you just never knew.
I think I have, but it's like what people have been saying, you know, we have all these subscriptions now and it's just an overwhelming of content. And at the same time, content is being taken from us.
Every day I sit down with my dinner to watch something, right? So I go on Hulu and I'm just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Nothing makes sense. And then I go onto my Amazon Prime and I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Still nothing makes sense. And then I go back to YouTube Shorts. It's why?
Yeah, it's just not only short attention spans, but streaming really has killed, TV culture. That's what's coming up a lot, especially with the writer's strike and them trying to be paid fairly.
Which is still going on.
And I want it to go on as long as it can. Like I said in the last episode, pay these people their fucking money. Stop playing with them. And then now they're doing a new thing and it was happening even before the strike, where they don't give shows enough time to grow, to improve themselves. And if they cancel it, they completely erase it off the platform. So there's no way you can find it.
What about pirated versions?
I don't know how that's working, but even then I'm sure, I don't know how corporations, if they're making the effort to go out and look for pirated stuff and delete them or not. So I don't know.
It is unfortunate.
It is, because that's also, messing with people's payment because they're not getting residuals anymore from people, watching this. And then they get a percentage of this is how much people watched it and then divide it up with money and all that math that I don't know how it works, but still. It's very sad, and I hope this strike lasts for a while, even if I have to give up a lot of shows. That's fine with me. I want these people to be paid.
Yeah. Which is funny, too, because they're so quick to cancel shows if it doesn't do well. But for it to do well, you have to have a well-written show to begin with, right?
Exactly.
The characters need to be nuanced and in-depth. The story arc needs to be good enough that it catches your attention from the get-go and keep your attention throughout the season. So there's so many factors that play into it, and you're underpaying the very people that are running, quite literally, no pun intended, the whole show. It's crazy.
Underpaying them, not giving them chances to have that breakout script. Yeah. And if they do get hired, they're working long hours to where they're so tired that creativity is not there and they're on tight budgets. So they'll have to make a lot of cuts, not to mention cuts of costs to produce it. It's just a whole thing.
Yeah.
And another thing, and then we'll get on to the movie, which is interesting because I don't know if I had shared this with you or not. You know how there is a rise of K-dramas and Korean movies coming onto Netflix?
Yeah.
Did I tell you that Netflix, even before the writer's strike, invested a bunch of money into production of, Korean content? And that's why we're seeing so much of it being put on Netflix now and Netflix originals of Korean content. Did I tell you that?
I think you mentioned it briefly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering because I wonder if they had predicted the writer's strike in America and that's why they did it. And I wonder how that works with the writer's strike because I follow this one girl on TikTok who always talks about the writer's strike because I think she's a writer herself. I don't remember her name at the moment. Maybe I'll link it in like the little comment section if you want to follow her for like details. But she was talking about one time how there were some international, TV writers supporting the strike in like other countries like the UK, I think some places in Europe, things like that. So I wonder if like maybe because I watch Korean content, if like Korean content, especially being with Netflix and hearing all the, back and forth about Netflix internally, how it's just not a great company, even though all these companies, to be honest, are not great. Again, capitalism. But I was just wondering if they're just going to milk them during this whole writer's strike for content, or if they'll like maybe down the line support the writer's strike. Who knows? That's just was something in my mind as I remembered it.
I mean, aren't we all technically milking the whole Korean content at this point?
Yes.
Because like, as much as I love Korean dramas, a lot of it is like not as original as it used to be. Do you get what I'm saying?
I mean, it's like, at the end of the day, I feel like this with everything in entertainment, whether it's movies, music, things nowadays are going to derive from something, because it's very hard to come up with an original idea, and most original ideas get passed on. So, because people are going to watch something they're more comfortable with than something new. That's why we're having a bunch of remakes. And I felt like this since maybe the 90s, and even the 90s was, repeating stuff from the 70s. So I feel like since past the 70s, we really haven't had anything new, if people understand what I mean by new. I just think it's at a point now where it's like, if you don't have an original idea, how are you telling, this borrowed idea in a new way?
Yeah.
That I think is also important. But it's hard. It's hard out here. Okay.
That's why we had a lot of book adaptations into like movies and series.
And we're getting another one. I know they're going to make another like Hunger Games. Lord. Hunger Games movie, because she made another book. But that's also different because the author was actually, involved with the movie. So sometimes that helps, and sometimes you can tell like when they're not actually involved or not. So we have things like that, and then we have like disaster trash fires, like The Idol, that I'm not going to get into and that I'm not watching. So I'm not even going to bring it up. Even as a K-pop person, I'm not going to bring it up. I'm not doing it.
You did that.
Well, I brought it up, but I'm not getting into my own discussions with it. I am just avoiding it completely, and I am glad they're not getting renewed.
Yeah, ever since the commercials for that show came out, I just knew it was not going to go well.
Which is really sad, because I don't know if you knew the original plot was to talk about women's struggles in Hollywood, and then men had to take over.
Yes, they had fired the original writers of that show.
Yes.
And then a certain very, very popular person
came in. I'll say it.
Okay, I didn't want to say it, but...
No, I don't care. Fuck, he's creepy.
Came in, 180 the whole thing, and like it's now what we see. I didn't realize he was that like, oh my gosh.
Not just him, but the creator guy himself, Sam Levinson, who also created Euphoria. And if you've seen Euphoria, I mean... Oh no,
I didn't have to see Euphoria. My kids my students talked about it enough for me to know, like, no.
I watched it, and then they completely derailed from the second season, because I feel like even the first season was going somewhere to talk about some real shit. But after the second season, and then just hearing about the behind the scenes drama that was happening with the cast and him himself, it's just like, just cancel it, okay? Just cancel it. I love Zendaya.
So Euphoria is canceled?
No, they're pushed. I said I think it needs to be canceled. They have been pushed back, because of the writer's strike. So I think the season 3 was supposed to come out next year, but I don't know if they even started filming it or not. So
gotcha.
We'll see. I don't know.
And then a lot of people were talking about Jenny in the show. And then some of them were like, what? She's an adult. She can do what she wants. But then the other side was just like, but she has children following her. So it's like...
Again, that is a thing for me where I could talk about this for the whole episode and we don't have time. Because that also goes into my thing with like K-pop in general and like the culture differences between international fans and Korean fans, where like... I don't have time to get into it. I would like to, because I have a lot of things to say about both sides. But I understand. But I am on the point of she is a grown woman. I don't like how she and other K-pop idols, are in infantilized.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it is a weird market where they say it's, geared towards kids and teens. But if you actually look at these idols and what they sing about sometimes, even the minors themselves and what they dress in, because I remember someone on TikTok that I follow said that, and I was like, I guess the difference in America is like we have content for kids. Like, I know Korea has like shows and stuff geared specifically for kids, but we even had musicians for kids. That's why like that era of Disney Channel where like Hannah Montana was popular. You had the Jonas Brothers on there. Other stuff that's different because of behind the scenes, but I'm just saying, like even when I was younger, we had the Wiggles, we had Doodle Bob. We had stuff geared for us.
That's actually a really good point you brought up. Yeah, because now that I think about it, I don't think like well, I can't speak on the country, obviously, but like from my experience with like their like entertainment and everything, they don't have like teenage singers or like teenage artists. So I can see why
they're idols, but they make them
right, but it's not like I mean, yeah, you have like the idols, but then it's not like their own thing. You know what? Like, you know how we have Disney? Like, it's not like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of people like New Jeans so much because, again, a lot of stuff that's going on in the background that I can't even talk about. But it seems like their content is more like their age friendly, their age group, trying to be. And that's what I had praised about TXT when they had first debuted. It's like when they first debuted, it was like, the teenage boy type music. It fit the appropriateness of their age. Now that they're getting older, they're making more.
Except for their cat dog song. Still don't like that one, but hey.
I'm not going to talk because I love cat. Let's play forever. I just want to be your dog.
Why would you want to be somebody's pet? But okay, anyway.
Stop thinking too much into it. But that is a valid point you have. I understand. I am biased, I will admit, because that's my song.
It's catchy, I'm not going to lie, but like, hello, lyrics.
But anyway, that's what I mean. They have been given the opportunity to grow with their music. Yes. And it's not too grown, I mean, they're grown now, so.
Yeah.
And then that was another thing with like Card and stuff when they were talking about BM's like verse. It was like, but you guys know how old Card is? And BM has been talking about stuff like this. Like many people point out, listen to his verse with Jesse on Put It On Ya. I love that verse, by the way. But yeah, anyway, again, tangent, guys. We're done because like I said,
20 minutes just on that, but hey.
It should be its own separate episode.
Right.
We're going to move on.
Yes.
Lord. Hey y'all, I just wanted to come in real quick because I had mentioned New Jeans. And in mentioning them, I had completely forgot about the song Cookie. And there's a reason I had tried to etch that out of my brain for if you know, you know. But it also goes into what I was talking about, as in whether promoting to young people or having young idols themselves say they're promoting for kids and teenagers, but then in the same act, like underlyingly, like secretly promoting stuff that's a little bit too grown, in my opinion. Well, no, things are a little bit too grown for children and teenagers. But yes, I just wanted to come in and point that out real quick because when we were recording, I had completely forgot about that song. And I think they also tried to pretend it didn't happen, but we know it happened. Just make sure it doesn't happen again.
Tell us about the movie, Simone.
So getting back on track, we are doing Unlocked, which is a Netflix original. The English title is Unlocked. I wrote down the Korean title. I'm practicing, guys. Again, excuse my pronunciation. I am trying. But the Korean title for this movie is 스마트폰을 떨어렸을 보는데. Yes, that's the Korean title. Now, I am confused about the actual release date because when I go online, it says it was released in February, like either 16th or 17th of this year. But I think Netflix says 2022. So was it released this year or was it released last year in 2022?
Here's the thing. I remember seeing that movie for a very long time, and I didn't have Netflix in February. So I'm pretty sure it was like earlier.
So it was February 2022, not 2023?
Probably. I'm not sure.
I don't know why every site I went on said it was released this year.
All of the sites I've seen says 23 too, so I'm not sure.
But on Netflix, because on Netflix it shows like year. It doesn't say when it was released, but it shows the year. It says 2022. I don't know. It was released recently, guys. Okay, one of these years.
Recent enough.
Yes, recent enough. So I am going to give the background, information of this movie, and then me and Nafis divided it up. So she's going to discuss the first half of it, and I'm going to do the second half. Again, when we do movie reviews, we spoil everything. So after I give, the synopsis. Okay, synopsis and the cast. If y'all want to jump out, watch the movie, then come back, you can do that. If you just want to listen to spoilers because you don't care, feel free. So, the synopsis is the main character, whose name is Inami. She's a marketer at a startup company, and she also, I believe, works part-time at her father's cafe. Correct? She helps him out. I don't know if she technically just works there or she just helps out. But she ends up losing her phone going home from a night out with friends, and then suddenly it gets returned to her by, I put in my notes in quotation marks, an unknown good Samaritan. However, unknown to Inami, the person whose name is Woo Jun-young, who found her phone that the audience knows about, had actually installed spyware to watch her every move and track her everyday life. And then at the same time all that is happening, a police detective named Woo Ji-man is investigating a murder crime where he found traces of his son, who is Woo Jun-young, who found Inami's cell phone at the scene. So he's basically looking for clues to see if his son is the killer or not, because in this specific area, in the mountain area, they've just been finding body after body after body. So yeah, it's some serious stuff's going on. So yeah, it's basically like a thriller. Would you consider this movie a thriller?
I would consider it a thriller, yeah.
Okay, because it's not really scary.
It's not, yeah.
It's not at all. But yeah, it's it has murder in it. So I guess a lot of things murder is considered a thriller.
I would consider it a softer version of a thriller, honestly.
Okay, I don't know if there's a word for that.
Because it's not like at the edge of your seat type, oh my god, what's going to happen next? But
right.
it keeps your attention.
Yeah, I would say the same. Okay, so the director of this movie, his name is Kim Tae-jun, and then he also wrote this movie. So he's credited as being the writer, Kim Tae-jun, and another person called Akira Shiga. Now, just to get not sidetracked, but to give some information on Akira Shiga. So they are a Japanese author, which is funny that we talked about this earlier, Nafis, who was credited in this movie because it seems like from the information that I got, it's loosely based off a novel they wrote called Stolen Identity that was published in 2017 in Japan. And then surprisingly enough, there are actually 2 Japanese movies based off this novel as well, which is also called Stolen Identity. That came out in 2018, and then a sequel to that, Stolen Identity 2, that came out in 2020. And then in the Japanese movies, I just gave you a quick description of that I found from Asian Wiki. I like using Asian Wiki for my notes. But the main character is Asami Inaba. And she basically starts having, the typical when you get hacked or your identity gets stolen, there are mysterious charges to her credit card. But due to her boyfriend losing his cell phone, which I think is interesting, and then she somehow gets involved in a case. So I'm not sure if the case is a murder case or not, but that's the description of Stolen Identity.
That actually sounds interesting.
Yeah, Akira Shiga is credited in those 3 movies. So Stolen Identity 2, and in this movie we're talking about Unlocked. And then the cast members, we have our main character. Her name is Inami, and the actress that plays her is Chonuli. And then our main guy is Oh Jun-young, who I just wrote stalker, because I guess that's what he basically is the stalker. And he is played by Im Shi-won. And I don't know people.
Him. Okay, he does the psychopath, crazy guy so well.
So obviously you could tell I watch K-dramas, but I guess I don't watch enough to recognize the actors enough.
Yeah. By the way, he's going to be in Squid Games too.
I was going to bring that up, but it seems like you know that already. Yes, as the Feast said, he is going to be in the new season of Squid Games, which I still don't understand if I am excited for or not, just because I feel like a second season of Squid Games, like, completely goes against what the first season was technically about, but
They did well with the new cast. I just hope the storyline is like up there too.
yeah, I mean, we will see when it comes out. I also wonder if Netflix is going to release that like reality show that they did off of Squid Games, where they got 456 contestants to compete for $456 million.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll see about that too.
I would actually like to watch that if they ever decide to release it.
I think they're going to, but again, we will see. It goes into, I feel like it goes against what the show was supposed to be about, but then again, that's how capitalism works. So,
I mean, that's why we have a season 2. But hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey guys, just wanted to come in real quick because I did mention Squid Game and I didn't know why they were making another season. Ironically enough, and I think it was after we initially recorded this too, the Los Angeles Times put out an article about Squid Game 2 because, it's a big thing right now in anticipation of the second season, learning about the cast. One of the actors, as we mentioned, that's in this movie is going to be in the new season, and so on and so forth. I think the full cast by now has been revealed. I don't actually know when the second season is going to drop. I don't know if they said that or not, but regardless. So I basically found out, if you didn't already know, that the reason they're making another season is because the original creator of Squid Games basically gave up all of his rights for the show. So we initially, let me not say it this way. So Netflix did pay him, of course, to be able to produce the show and have it on Netflix. And I don't know if anyone knew this or not, but he's been fighting for a while. I think it said 10 years for someone just to put this out, but no one in South Korea, the South Korean companies really believed in this project or that it would do good. So it took him a while. Again, I think I read 10 years, a while ago when the first season came out, but he gave up his initial rights as far as residuals and copyright infringement for Squid Game. So after it was released and Netflix paid him up front, whatever the show garnished from streaming, he did not get paid at all. Hence why he's making another season to kind of get paid. Now, if you know anything about TV, even if you didn't study it like I did, and my mind, honestly, I forgot a lot that I learned in school. Maybe because I'm not in the practice either. But usually residuals is where most actors, writers, directors get paid. If you don't know what that means, it basically means, how when cable was really big and you would see a lot of reruns, every time they would rerun that show or movie, that is how they got paid again, is being shown on cable. So basically, every time someone watched Squid Game on Netflix, he did not get paid. He got paid some type of sum upfront for the licensing, but that was it. I didn't think I was going to be able to read the LA Times because I thought I was going to have to pay for a subscription, but surprisingly, I was able to read it. So I just got done reading the article. If you're able to read it, I will link it at the bottom. Done by Max Kim, so a Korean writer themselves. It was actually very well done, but it's just crazy because in the article itself, it said that not only did Squid Game, and I think that came out around the pandemic, right? Not only did it really revive Netflix, they made, let me go back to the article so I make sure I get this number right, because I don't want to give a wrong number, but it's a shit ton of money that they made off of this. Because, they made that reality show, which I don't know if they're going to put out, Funko Pops, a bunch of other merch. It was very huge. Did Squid Game come out in 2020 or 2021? I really don't remember. Again, my mind, I'm losing it these days. Okay, because he pitched it to them in 2019. And it looks like they spent $2.4 million each episode to make it, which according to this article is about a fourth of what they spent on Stranger Things. Oh, here it is. Thanks to that. So here it is. So thanks to Squid Game, it raised Netflix's value for a company by an estimate of $900 million. Let me repeat that number. $900 million. That's an insane amount of money, right? Again, a number, a percent, a price I'll never see in my goddamn life, honestly. But yeah, because the next paragraph, I'll quote it. So it says, in his contract, he had forfeited all intellectual property rights and received no residuals, royalty payments that writers, directors, and actors normally receive when their work is reused after initial broadcast. He said in an interview that Squid Game had earned him, quote, enough to put food on the table. Sir, you also deserve to be... No, you deserve to earn money. I'm glad it was enough to put food on your table, but you should have been paid 10 times more, especially what we know now. Like, if anyone that is listening to me is a creative themselves and plans to try to make whatever type of creative you are, whether that's music, making movies, short films, social media, like artwork, as far as like museums, hand drawing, animation, whatever, please, 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 I'm begging y'all, even if you cannot afford it, hopefully go online and just find a way to take some type of business class. So that way, if you ever get approached by a big company, I don't care what the company is, where it is in the world, you are able to at least understand the basics of a contract. Sometimes you do need a lawyer to get involved, because companies try to slide in a lot of things that the average normal person does not understand. All they see usually are dollar amounts, and that's why they agree to them. But please, any type of business class and a degree in business so you can try to understand what you're signing, because that's where a lot of artists and creatives usually get screwed over at the end. You see it all the time, and it is still happening. Example I can give of my favorite artist, Megan Thee Stallion, what she had to go through her company. But again, this is not an old thing. There are many other famous people who are known for being screwed over through contracts, especially in music. Music, I think, is the worst out of all of them. They're all bad, but I think music is worse, even worse than TV and like movies, because they really will find any way to just make money. That's what they're there for. That is what they're there for. But just make sure you are not getting screwed over as well. That's the thing too. Like, you're dealing with a company. They don't care about the creative side like you do. All they care about is making a profit. They need you in order to make a profit. So just make sure they don't use you and throw you out. You know what I'm saying? I'm rambling a little bit, but just the article baffled me a lot, because another thing, and then I'll go. They started actually getting into the way Korea produces like their dramas, which is what they're known for. And it actually brought up what I was talking about, how Netflix has been getting a lot of Korean dramas and putting it on their site. Another paragraph from the article right here that I can read to you guys. Again, I will link this. Hopefully you're able to read it without needing a subscription. And I'll link another article that linked me to this one, so I was able to read it. But this paragraph says the 130 or so South Korean productions, sorry guys, I can't read apparently, including 52 Netflix originals, already rival the company's library of original Spanish language programs. Netflix, which estimates that 60% of its 230 million subscribers have watched Korean titles, announced it would be investing an additional 2.5 billion with the B, in South Korean content over the next 4 years. And that's what I was telling Nafis about, because I had heard that news before the writer's strike happened in America. And I don't know if that was because they were predicting a writer's strike here in America, or just because, like I said, off of Squid Games, and probably even before that with the popularity of Parasite and it winning an Oscar, they saw the future in South Korean content. But what I was saying before is that they started going a little bit into detail about South Korea and how they make their dramas and what they have to go through. And after reading that, if anyone from South Korea is listening, do you guys need to go on strike as well? I'm just saying. And listen, as a K-pop fan, I have an annoyance every time I read articles talking about the dark side of K-pop. But most of the time, they bring that up to try to downplay why so many people like it. Trying to be like, oh, well, you guys like K-pop because it sell you this and that fantasy, but do you know the real dark side of it? Which they're not wrong when they talk about the dark side of K-pop. I'm using quotes. I know you can't see me. Because some of it is true and some of it is stuff we will not know. The part that annoys me is every time they're so quick to point out the dark side of something, especially in a different country, when you won't point out the dark side of things that are happening in your own backyard. Because I promise you, the things that are happening behind the scenes in the American entertainment industry are probably just as dark or darker. But like I said in a last episode, we are really great at hiding it. I keep saying I have to applaud Hollywood for the audacity of making people think everybody and anybody that works in that industry are happy and rich and live in like 10-story mansions on the hill of like Beverly Hills or something. I don't know. I've never been to Beverly Hills. I really don't know what it looks like, but you get what I'm saying. So yeah. Again, I'm going to link it so you can read it yourself because it's really a lot. And I already know Korea has some very extreme labor laws. And I remember they were trying to push the work week to like 70 hours, I think, instead of the normal like 55, which is already, or is it 60? I can't remember. I just know it's more than the US, which is 40. And we have some pretty strict labor laws. Well, let me not say that either, because that also gets tricky, but still. Yeah. Listen, if the South Korean entertainment and like dramas and stuff, or even K-pop, if y'all do decide you want to go on strike, and I'm talking about like the writers, the camera people, the people that do the lighting, you know, the people that not everyone else thinks about. They're too worried about like the actors. If y'all want to go on strike, I'm all here for it. In Korean dramas and in K-pop. I support the little people. I think my theme for 2023 is pay these people their fucking money. Well, let's get back to talking about the movie because this rant was very, very long, but I needed to say that. So I don't even want to say this because I know how shady of a company like Netflix is, because in the article, it even says they discuss more seasons so he can try to get the residual pay. It says it in this article, and I really don't believe that, but we'll see. I'll never know how much because it doesn't say how much they actually paid him either. It said that they usually give writers like let me find the amount too, so I don't lie to you. Well, you can read it yourself, but I think this is through Netflix and this is a Korean producer, but they quoted someone that said they were paid $3,400 a month for dramas, but I thought I read somewhere that they were paid a lump sum up front, but then that had to last them like 2 to 3 years. I think it was like $30,000. Yeah, okay, I found it. So it says in advance at Netflix rates starts around $30,000. And that's for them to buy the show. But of course, with the pace that sometimes it may take with writing or rewrites, pitching, casting, and preparing for the shoot and finding your people, all that, the writers have to live off that for 2 to 3 years before receiving the full script fee. That paragraph, I don't know if it's talking about America or South Korea or just how Netflix does no matter where you are in the world. But again, if you have just like 10 minutes to spare, I would really read this. Again, I hope the American writers go on strike as long as they can. I heard the American actors actually might go on strike too, so that would be a first. That would be interesting. South Korea, if y'all need to go on a strike, I will support that. Again, I don't know how your economy works, if you can afford that, or if you have anything called unions like we do here. I just want everyone to be paid equally, okay? I'm too much of an optimistic to just want a fair and just world, and I know that's not what we live in. But I'm keep rambling. So let's get back to the show before I keep going for another 30 minutes.
So next we have the character Ujiman, and he is, I don't know if he's technically a detective or he's a police officer. I mean, he works at the police station, but is he more of a detective or an actual officer? I feel like there's a difference.
I think he's more of a detective.
Okay.
But like in the movie, they identify themselves as police officers, so
that's why I was confused.
Yeah, because they're in the missing persons unit, I guess, right?
I guess so. Are they in the actual unit, or do they just work with that unit?
I don't know.
I don't know either. They don't go into too much detail, which was another thing I was kind of like, there was some plot holes. Like
it was one of my grievances with the movie.
I know it's a movie, so you only have a certain amount of time, but at the same time, even in 2 hours, I still had a lot of questions.
Yeah.
But he is played by the actor Kim Hee-won. Isamu, who is Inami's father, is played by Park Ho-san. Jung Eun-ju, who is Inami's best friend. She is the one who is labeled as Drop Dead Gorgeous, the English translation, right? Okay, that's what I thought. And she is played by Kim Ye-won, who I guess is a stage name for her, because Asian Wiki said her real name is Kim Yubin, but we'll respect and call her by her stage name if that's what she prefers. So it's Kim Ye-won. And then last but certainly not least oh, I mistyped. Okay. His name is Kim Jung-ho. That's the actor's, not the actor's name. That's the character's name. And he is Ujiman's partner. And he is played by Jong Jin-woo. That's the actor's actual name. And I was wondering why he looked familiar. And when I was looking him up, he is in The Glory. He played the creepy, gangster guy. You remember in The Glory? Who was working with, the detective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That was him. I was wondering, your face looks familiar.
Right, I thought that too.
Faces,
yeah.
But I don't remember names.
Her dad's face is very familiar too, but I just can't recall where I saw him.
I'm sure if you look on, the credits.
Like the thing.
I usually put that in, but like I said, this time I didn't. So that's all the facts about the movie, guys, just to give you, the actors who play in it. If any of the names sound familiar, if I didn't butcher them too much, I apologize as well. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the movie. So again, if you want to actually watch the movie first and then listen to us, this is a time to bounce. Slow it down, make it bounce it. Sorry, I've been listening to ATEEZ. I love ATEEZ's new album, by the way. And if you don't care about spoilers, then just keep listening to us.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with part 1. So the movie actually starts off with various scenes or scenarios where people use their phone, right? So for music, for texting, for banking, making reservations and things like that.
Which is real life,
right? Essentially,
on my phone. If I lose my phone, I'd be screwed.
Yes. A good chunk of the world would be screwed. So yeah, the movie starts off with that, and it just basically sets the stage of the importance of a phone, in particular a smartphone, because of all the different things you could do on it. And so we are introduced to our main female lead. She is going home. She's on the bus. She is very, very, very drunk. So she has no idea what is going on around her. And she almost misses her stop home, but she eventually catches it. But in the means of catching her bus stop, she drops her phone on the bus floor, which she doesn't even realize until her friend comes to her house and kind of teases her about it. A mysterious good Samaritan, as you call him, answers the phone.
I was so terrified when he started playing that recording. I'm like, are you serious?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And
the fact that he had preset statements, I'm like, oh my goodness. And that actually got me thinking about the whole use of AI now. How easily we can change the voice of somebody or impersonate someone. I'm like, oh my god, this is so creepy.
And notice, I think he waited too to see which one to actually use, because he chose a woman's voice because he's talking to a woman. So, because women are more trustful, which isn't always true, but I'm sure they're more willing to be with a woman who have picked up the phone than a man.
Yes. Yeah. So he, we know that the person who picked up the phone is a man, but he's impersonating or using the voice of a female to make sure the friend feels comfortable talking to him. And so she lets him know that this is her friend's phone and that she'll get in touch with the friend to see what they want to do. And so Which is funny because, like you said, the friend didn't think anything about it because they actually thought the automated voice was like an actual female. So, like,
yeah, because it was so weird how it didn't sound automated. Yes. At first I was like, what is this one of these like recordings where, like with us learning Korean, like used to study, but like it did sound like it was pretty clear to where it sounded like we were talking to an actual person. It was interesting how we had so many set up to just like pre-recorded of like how to start the conversation. I'm like, I don't know how people think about this like beforehand. It was just wild to me.
When you're psycho like that and calculative, yes, you think about everything.
I question every day like why people do stuff, and then I'll have to get to a point where it's like I have to stop questioning it because it's like the deep sea is unknown.
And every time, and I'm like, this is why I don't trust men. This is why I don't trust people. This is why, quote unquote, I come off as a brick wall or whatever it is you want to say. Because I've been told that I come off as a brick wall sometimes. I'm like, yeah.
I've been told that too.
Yeah, and I'm just like, there's a reason.
And that's why I'm so quiet too, because I like observing people first just to get like a vibe. I'm not trying to do it just to be like standoffish or think I'm better than you. It's just like you just don't know these days. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's gotten worse.
Exactly. I just couldn't get the thought of like the whole AI thing out of my head. Yeah. Because now you can create a voice based off of just a really small sample, and that in itself is just scary.
This is why I was telling you those songs being made by AI voices is terrifying. Yeah. It's not fun. I don't find them fun or funny at all. It's great if the actual artists themselves are doing it, but no, I can see that turning real quickly. And not only that, but I hear with AI, deep fake is starting to get, more progressive. Yes. So it's just like...
Actually, that brings up a really good, like, PSA moment. I was listening to this, or I was watching this Instagram story where they were like, whenever someone calls you and it sounds like somebody that's a family member, and they're like, oh my gosh, I need like money. Can you like send me money, or like, can you do something for me? That may seem like normal, but like it's probably a little bit odd for that person to do. Always make sure you call back, like you hang up and call back that person just to verify. Because even if you text them, like the text can easily be like manipulated, right? Like even voices can be manipulated. So it's important that like you actually connect with the person and verify like this is what you need.
Which is funny because speaking of that, because me and my dad a while ago talked about it because there was a woman who was talking about like how her sister called her and she thought, it was her. And we have like our own like little secret code that we have and a phrase, even though I get annoyed when he says it to me, but like it does help in those situations. But like it's crazy because we were sitting in our living room yesterday having a conversation, and he's like kind of standing up next to the table because I'm sitting at the table, and his phone's on the other side. So it's like all of a sudden when he said something, the Siri on his phone was like, I didn't understand that. Now, he didn't say, hey, Siri. He didn't say Siri. And he didn't have his phone in his hand. Yeah. But Siri automatically turned on. So that was another scary thing. And I was like, was that you? Like, do you have one of your headphones, like, in your pockets or something you actually touch? And he pulled out, like, his pockets. Like, I don't have anything.
This is what people don't understand when it comes to, like, Alexa or, like, Siri. You don't have to say, hey, Siri, hey, Alexa, for Alexa or Siri to be listening. They're always listening. I
think they updated it. Yeah.
They're always, even before, I believe it, even before when you had to specify, hey, Siri, hey, this, they were always listening. Like, I would just be talking about, I don't have Siri on my phone, but like, I'd just be talking about, like, I don't know, a trip to like Tennessee or something. And tell me how I start seeing ads for Tennessee. Like, how does...
That's always been a thing.
But, like, how does my phone know? You know what I mean?
Because they're watching you.
Right.
They're watching us right now record this.
Probably. But I'm just saying, if that, like, it's become so easy to just monitor people.
Yeah.
Through a phone.
And it's getting scarier because it's not even just, like, phones and laptops anymore. Because I listened to this one podcast called The Friend Zone. And the girl, Fran, was talking about how she has a smart thermometer, and then it seemed like somehow someone had hacked the smart thermometer and was able to see like what she was doing, which is also terrifying. I saw another TikTok talking about a girl seemed like she hacked her Alexa, and I didn't think Alexas had cameras in them, but maybe it was those whatever device she has Alexa on. It seemed like they might have also hacked it to the camera to like watch her and stuff. Again,
anything smart can be hacked, whether that's a phone, a car, a cleaning machine. You know those little like smart iRobot like vacuum cleaners?
We were thinking about getting one too, but we didn't end up getting one.
Yeah, you can hack that. And like I saw videos of like people's like iRobots being hacked and like showing them like the whole house via camera. I was like, oh my God, which is funny because I really, really wanted one. And I'm like, no.
Even our Bluetooth speaker, like there's no camera on it, but like sometimes since we live in an apartment now, there are instances where it's, coming through the TV and then it stops. And I think someone's trying to connect to it. And it's just like, we can't live without this stuff. And at the same time, no privacy anymore.
Speaking of Bluetooth, this is the last thing I want to say before I move on. But like speaking of Bluetooth, it was so funny because this actually scared the shit out of me. When I used to drive my brother's car before I got my own.
You told the story about the Apple Tag. Yeah.
No, not the Apple Tag, but like I turned the car on and I would hear SpongeBob and he's like coming out of the audio, and it would freak me out so much.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where the hell is SpongeBob coming from? Because we don't have kids in our house. We don't have kids, and like so I turned the car off and I turned it back on, and it'd be like another radio. Like it would be just like something else every time. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I told him, he's like, oh, it's probably like somebody in the area who's like connected, like who got automatically connected through Bluetooth. And I'm like, that's freaky as shit. Because like that's like at 5:30 in the morning. I don't need that. It's dark out.
No,
right?
It's absolutely terrifying. So.
Yeah. Moving right
technology.
along. I know.
This is also why I wanted to do this, is because it was just funny how we talked about AI last time, and I was like, a movie to talk about more of the dooming Terminator like future ahead of us.
But I will say though, this movie just brought a lot of things to my attention that now I'm actually going to look out for. Like for like the phone camera. I don't know why I never thought that could be hacked. I'm going to watch out for that.
That scared me. I didn't know that could be happening like that.
And like how her phone would start texting by itself. What the freak? Like what?
Like he was able to remotely
do that. Oh. Yeah. No. But anywho, with this like phone call, with just talking to the friend, he was able to figure out like the girl's phone, like the girl's name is Nami. And so, where was I? But yeah, so she eventually calls him. Nami eventually calls him, and they talk, and she again with the female voice, right? And so she thanks him about like finding her phone and everything, and they agree to meet up at Cafe Mizzy, which is her dad's cafe. But that obviously does not happen. So what he does is he tries to get into her phone by putting in like different passcodes. It doesn't work. And so he purposely breaks her screen, calls her back and tells her, oh, hey, I accidentally broke your screen. But I got it sent to a repair shop to get fixed, and I paid for everything. All you have to do...
Before you move on, not to interrupt you, but another reason he found out who Nami is because that's another thing, too. I feel like I want to turn off my notifications on my phone to where it shows up, like, if you get, like, an Instagram like or something.
Her Instagram, too,
yes. Her friends were tagging her on Instagram, and so her Instagram is not private, so he was able to go on, look up the username that popped up and see, like, what she looked like, the friend he might be talking to, and things like that.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so the Instagram played a big part, too.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I? Oh, yeah, so he sent it a repair shop to get it fixed. And she's like, okay, thank you so much. And so she goes there to go get it picked up. She arrives there and like the building is like old and stuff, but she still goes inside. She goes...
I don't know how I would feel going into a place I've never been to by myself that is sketchy like that.
Right.
And trusting someone who would mysteriously found my phone and fix it for me for free. It's like sometimes when people do good things like that, you don't want to
trust it.
You don't want to trust it, but then you also don't want to be like, there are still people out there that just do good things.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah.
So like not to be too paranoid, but at the same time, it's like, suspicious. No one does it anymore.
Mm-hmm. And we don't unfortunately, we don't live in areas where it is relatively safe, but it's very odd for that kind of gesture to happen, But yeah, so essentially she arrives there. There is a sign before she enters that says, enter with a mask only. I thought they had recorded this around COVID time, which is why they had that, but no.
No, I thought they did too, because if you remember the opening scene on the news, they were talking about how they were like, ever since they lifted the mask policy on like on the subways and stuff and the buses, they were talking about how people were still wearing the mask because they felt more comfortable doing that. So I was wondering if they had recorded this or like was trying to make it more modern day, like post COVID as well.
I thought that too. I honestly, until I'll get to that point, but yeah, I thought that was the main reason why. But like, so she didn't think anything of anything, and so she put on her mask and she goes in. And when she goes in, we find out that the repair shop belongs to our male lead, which is Jun Young. And this male lead, by the way, is the one who found her phone, has been tracking her ever since he got that phone. So he asks her to fill out a form, which gives, basically write down her name, her password for her phone, which I wanted to ask, is that normal for a repair shop to do, to ask for the password of the phone? Or are they able to fix it without going into the phone itself?
No, I think so, because I had to have had my phone repaired before, because there was a time where my speaker on my cell phone wasn't working. So like when I would call people, they couldn't hear me. It was like broken. They either ask for it or they ask you before you get there to turn it off. I don't remember which one. Now that I think about it, I think they told me to turn it off in my settings.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they asked for it. I think they're just like, oh, if you don't mind, can you go ahead while you're standing here, like, turn off your passcodes.
Interesting.
But then again, that was a very long time ago, so I don't truly remember. But I don't feel like I gave it to them. I feel like I turned it off beforehand.
Okay. Because I was just thinking, I don't know which would be more weird, to ask for someone's password or like to ask them to turn it off beforehand, as far as like fixing the phone,
Yeah, because I was going to be like, when you get it repaired, just reset your settings and change it. But in this case, it didn't matter. So
yeah, I mean, whenever you get your phone fixed, in either way, it's not going to matter, because whatever they're going to do when you're not there.
Right. Especially if you're not tech savvy, like a majority of us.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, so he has her fill out like this form, which basically has all her information, especially the passcode, which he has been trying to get. And so now he has like access to everything. And so he fixes the screen. Does he fix the screen, or does he like get another phone? Because he had two phones.
Gets another phone. But another question I have, if he was a true hacker, wouldn't he been able to get into the phone without needing her password? Because there's a lot of times where people, especially back then, would find phones and jailbreak them.
Right.
Without needing to know the passcode. I just thought of that right now as you were talking.
Another plot hole.
I mean, maybe.
Right. I feel like he probably did know how to do it, but he likes the thrill of it, I guess.
I was going to say, do you think it was another like tactic to get like to know her, to see what she looks like?
Yeah.
To somewhat get more information, to get close?
Probably.
Okay.
I just felt like it was more like, oh, I can take my time with this. I'm not in a rush,
Right.
Type thing. But yeah, so he got her phone, he was able to get in, and he installed a surveillance app. And so this quite literally tracks her every single move. Like every time she opens up her phone, every time she sends a text, every time she gets a notification, when she turns her camera on, like basically every single thing. And so this part, I was like, when they like started showing him like tracking her for a few days, I'm like, oh my God, this is so freaky.
Was it an app or was it an actual thing he put in the chip?
I think it was an app, because he sends that same link to the dad and he just, downloads it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so like he downloads that application into her phone and then like that's it, done. So yeah, the story moves along, showing us how he's monitoring everything. And basically at one point, like her and her friends were having a conversation about the plumade that her dad makes for her at the cafe, and how like it wasn't really selling well and they want to take it off the menu and things like that. So he hears this, which by the way, we find out about Jun Young that him and his dad, they planted like a plum tree when they were young. And so he likes plums. So anything plums, I guess, that caught his attention.
You know what? I didn't even think about that until you said that. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. So there's that. And so he goes to the cafe, like just as himself. And so he asks for the plumade. and saying that he had it like last summer and like he really loved it and things like that. But she was like, "Oh, we don't have it on the menu. When did you drink it?" And that's when he said the summer thing. And she's like, "Okay, yeah, fine, I'll make it for you." And so she gives him the pomade, and then her dad walks into the cafe and he sees her talking to him. And like they're getting along and acting chummy and everything like that. And he's like, "Oh, do you know that guy?" And she's like, "No, he's a regular. I thought you'd like, recognize him." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And so at this point, nothing like there was no alarm bell, no nothing like raised just yet.
Well, for the father, yes.
For the
I think
father,
that's
yes.
just typical father,
The father, yes. And then the girl, no. But she just leaves to go to hang out with like her friends. And then that is for that scene. And then it cuts into Jun Young's dad's conversation with his colleague. I think I skipped a part. All right, yeah. So in between all of this, there is like an investigation going about like how it's mostly girls, right? The dead bodies. They were girls, right?
I don't think so. I think it was a mix of both. They didn't really specify.
They didn't specify? Yeah, so
no, I think a majority might have been women, but I think
it's probably
mixed.
But yeah, anyway, they were finding like dead bodies all around the city, and like at one point there was a lot of incriminating evidence against the lead inspector, the lead investigator's son, whose name is Jun Young. And that's when we find out that Jun Young had run away from home like 7 years ago, and like him and his dad have not been in contact since. And so the colleague was like, "Why don't you talk to your wife? Because there's no way they haven't been in contact, right?" And so he thinks about it. And so he goes back home and he goes through his wife's phone. And he actually does find out that they have been communicating through text. And he's been telling her his whereabouts and things like that so that she can send him like food and things like that. So he was able to track down his latest our current location. So now we go back to Jun Young stalking Nami. So Nami puts her phone away for the night on her little cool charging thing. But after she falls asleep, this freaked me out so much. It just turned on automatically, like, and just doing its own thing. I'm like, oh my God, that is so freaking scary. And so
it was him going through the phone and just looking at stuff like her social media.
Right.
I don't know if he went through her bank account or not, things like that.
He found out a lot of stuff. Like overnight he found out like so much personal information, like her house passcode, that she lives alone. She doesn't have, roommates, or there's no like landlord situation. He knows what her house looks like. He knows like which bus route she takes, like basically everything. And the most important thing he finds out is that she runs a secret Instagram account about like her company and everything. So yeah, so the next morning comes, Nami goes to work. She finds out that the company is doing really, really well and that she's about to get a raise. And then we cut back to Jun Young, being the stalker freak that he is in front of her house, like literally sitting in like the front area of her house while like that whole conversation with her boss is going on. And he goes in to her house and he goes through everything. He checks the bathroom. I don't know why he checked if the water was running. That was weird. But
this is being a creep. That's just part of being a creep.
Yeah. He checked the room, the bathrooms. He goes through her desk and he finds a phone. Which he takes. And I think he installed something in that phone too, which we find out later.
Oh, that's where she got. See, some parts I'm not sure if I remember like paying attention or not.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So, okay.
Yeah. So he takes the phone and I'm pretty sure he installed something on it so that whenever she, turns it back on, he'll know. Yeah. So I think he also made a withdrawal from her like card, right? Like he took money too from her bank account. Because
that was the thing. I was like, I don't think did he steal money?
I don't know, because we just saw a scene of him like withdrawing money from a bank account and then just throwing away a card, like holding it up like a credit card or debit card, whatever. But I'm not sure if was.
If he did, then that's another plot hole because I don't remember them ever bringing it up again.
Yeah.
You think you'd be worried if someone was taking money from you.
I was waiting for that to come back again.
That's the first thing I would check.
Exactly. So yeah. So basically her phone is being hacked and used like every single day. And this is the part that like kind of aggravated me, is that she never noticed that her phone would just light up on its own or like do its own thing. It's like, that just tells you she's not like into her phone like the rest of society is, which is probably why she ran into that issue.
I don't know. It was either that or like, even though she was on her phone, maybe he also just doesn't have a life and was watching her to where he would do that when he knew she wasn't paying attention, you know?
So, like, he knew her patterns, basically.
Yeah, because if he's watching her through the phone the whole time, he's going to know, like,
when she's not on it.
At her phone, and, like, when she's not, like, whether the phone's not in her face or anywhere where she can see, like, it light up or things like that, so.
That's true, I guess.
So I think it was just by him watching her, he would do it when she wasn't paying attention.
She wasn't, like, physically. Oh, okay. Gotcha. That kind of makes sense.
She just seems like a heavy sleeper. She doesn't notice a light coming on when she's sleeping, so.
Yeah. I mean, that is the reason why she ran into this. No, actually, alcohol was the reason, but anyway.
I was going to say, that was alcohol.
Yeah. This is why we don't drink, guys. Or you drink with a buddy.
This is why I don't drink.
Or you drink with somebody you trust.
Yeah, that's why we always have a designated, well, it's usually driver, but I don't know. We usually always have one mildly sober person in the group so they can be aware. If you're with friends that you trust enough like that.
I would just suggest you don't drink, period, because alcohol is not good for you. It's a depressant. It's not supposed to make you happy. But we are the masters of our own lives. So, I mean, if you're going to do something, just know there are consequences.
I just don't care for it.
Yeah. Anywho, so, yeah, so basically her phone is being hacked. And then we get cut to the scene where Jun Young's parents are talking. So he confronts his wife about his whereabouts. And he basically tells her, like, there's incriminating evidence against him. He found evidence by the plum tree that they, like, you know, planted when he was like 10 years old. And so his dad, in the meantime, while he was talking to his wife, had his phone and everything traced. So they actually did find his location. And so the mom, like, starts freaking out, and then, like, he leaves. But when they trace the phone, they find out that the phone is under the name of a female. So they're back to square one as far as, like, tracking him down. But they did find out that he had reported for fraud because he lost a lot of money in a scam, and that he runs a repair shop but doesn't own his own phone. So they thought that was weird as far as, like, information they found. Let's see. So the dad, he goes to Jun Young's residence. He goes through his things and finds a lot of incriminating evidence. So he finds everything related to the most recent dead body that they found. So they found, like, pictures of the girl, the stuff that he uses, her phone, and things like that. So at that point, while the dad is going through everything in his apartment, Jun Young is on his way to his house when he noticed a little red thread, like, by his door on the floor, and that, like, just gave him the alert that somebody is inside of his house. So he goes around to the side and he finds out that it is the dad. So he tricks the dad into, I thought this was actually very clever. The way
this part did scare me. Yeah, the way he was, like, tricking him and all that. It's like he was prepared.
Yeah, like the way he tackled that was just so clever, but, like, it's also very, very scary. Like, so he took.
Yes, it's clever and scary at the same time. We can admit that.
Yeah, so he went around his apartment and went to the window, and he took a picture of his dad going through everything, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, it's been a while," and sends him a picture, and then the dad, like, freaks out, runs outside. And then he just keeps sending, like, pictures from, like, different locations. The dad is just running manically here and there. And so in the meantime, he goes back into the apartment, gets rid of evidence, takes the stuff he needs, and he leaves. He bounces.
Yep. Destroys everything.
Yeah, he destroys everything. But not before the dad found out that there's one more victim, which is Nami.
Yeah, that's still around. Yeah,
which is Nami. So he was able to figure out that, like, there's still a chance for me to catch my son, unfortunately. That's one thing I kind of wish, though. Like, they kind of went into the backstory of, like, what went wrong between them.
See, that's what I was wondering the whole time of, like, what made him run away? Like,
right.
Did you do something to him? Did you hit him? Did y'all just not get along? And, like, we don't have an age range of how old he is, so I don't know. They said that he's been gone for 7 years, so when did he leave? Like, I had a lot of questions.
Exactly.
Again, I know it's a movie, so, like, you're on a time crunch, but I wish they at least touched on why he left.
This is, I guess, a bad thing that I do is, like, whenever I watch, like, movies with psychopaths, like, I want to, like, justify their actions in the movie. Like, for example, in this case, like, what is the actual reason why he does what he does? Like, is it daddy issues, or is it, like, he was abused when he was growing up? But we don't get any sort of context as to, like, why he does what he does.
Even so, like, I don't know if you can even justify that of him turning out the way he is, just because that's what I talk with Macy, and I think you a lot that I bring up. That's that nature versus nurture. So you don't know if he was like already like this, and even if that fortunately happened, it just added on to it. You could have had a perfectly normal life, and he still ended up like this. Like, you just never know. And that is one of those things where it's tricky to talk about because we just truly don't know.
Yeah. A little more context in that regard would have made the story a little bit more clear.
I still wanted to know. I just want to know why he left. But...
yeah. So yeah, that's where we were. Dang, where did I stop? Yeah, so he grabs his things and leaves. And then he goes straight to the cafe where Nami works and he gets a plumade. At this point, though, it's the dad that deals with him. He's like, oh, I haven't seen you in a long time. And he's like, yeah. And the dad makes a point to mention, like, the plumade is something that I give to my regulars. So, like, if you're a regular, I make a point to remember your face. And so he was like, so that, like, had a light bulb go off in Jun Young's head, like, uh-oh, he's on to me. Which, honestly, is a good thing, but then not really. Because, gets the dad in trouble.
He kind of expect everyone to fall for his little thing. Did he think the father was going to be as naive as Nami? Like, come on.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is, but then sometimes you got to remember, and he's a father.
Exactly. He's always looking out.
Fathers that usually care are more worried, especially when they have daughters, so...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he goes there, he sells Nami some tickets for something, and he also gives her, like, a business card for in case, quote unquote, anything goes wrong. And so... after that point, Nami's dad takes her home and, like, in the car, he asks her if he should move to Seoul because he just thinks that Jun Young is a creep and just so that he could be closer and, like, keep an eye on things. And he was, like, worried, too, because he's, like, he lied about being a regular. He sold her, like, the CDs and the tickets. And so the father has doubts and, like, warned her to stay away. And mind you, Jun Young is listening in to all this entire conversation. So he knows that the dad does not trust him and things like that. Yeah. So after that, she tells off her dad, goes into her house.
Like typical father, daughter, like, don't tell me what to do.
Right.
I'm a grown woman.
And I'm like, girl, you're grown. You could have responded much more nicely, but okay. But yeah, anyway, so her friend comes over, and which I found really weird because I don't know if you noticed, but she mentioned that, like, she told her to come over, right? She's like, oh,
I also must have missed that because I thought she came over because she was upset about blowing an interview she had because she mentioned that.
No, she was. That's why she came. But, like, apparently, like, Nami had sent her text about, like, her interview and things like that. I don't know. It was just really weird.
I must have missed that, and I've watched this movie twice.
And Nami was like,
twice?
And Nami was like, I sent that. But, like, they don't go further into that part. But eventually, they start talking about Jun Young and, like, how... And so Nami eventually mentions that, like, she's not really, like, attracted to him, but, like, she is curious about him because they do have, like, a lot of things in common. And so she does mention that he would look better if he, like, got rid of the glasses and, like, cut his hair.
Which I thought he looked fine. He looked cute either way.
He did.
Maybe that's the beauty standard I don't understand. I thought he looked adorable with the glasses.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so she's like, she just wants to, like, get to know him better. And so at that point, Jun Young hacks Nami's phone. I mean, it's already hacked, but, like, he hacks it again and texts her dad to install the surveillance app, which, by the way, is called the Peepers app. That in itself should have been a freaking red flag. Like, who would name an application Peepers? Like, that's just like, come on, Dad. You were so smart until, like, 2 minutes ago.
That's funny because that makes me think of a regular show episode where, like, Benson literally got a security camera called Peepers to watch Mordecai and Rigby because they're so lazy and won't do their jobs. But it was called Peepers so he can watch them.
Right.
So if you're downloading something called Peepers, I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah. But you have to remember, though, I guess in his defense, is that he's getting this text from his daughter. But he did actually have his doubts, actually, now that I think about it. He's like, are you sure this is safe? And she's like...
he kept asking, like, are you sure this is, like, an okay software? Like, what is this actually for? Things like that. So at least he did question.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, in case I lose my phone again. And he's like, chuckling, haha, that's true, downloads it. And I'm like, oh my God, this psychopath has her down to the T. But yeah, so he downloads it, and now like he has access to the dad too. And so Junyoung's dad goes to, oh, so we're cutting the scene back to the detective, which is Junyoung's dad. He goes to the most recent dead girl's mom's restaurant and says that this part I was kind of confused on. So like the mom says that Junyoung was the one who told her daughter to go to Thailand. Like, was that what that was?
Was it Jungyoung that told her that, or was it the daughter herself that said that she was going on a trip, like texted her? I was under the impression that she said she got a text from the daughter.
Okay.
She was like going out of the country.
Okay.
But she did meet Jungyoung like in person, I believe.
Yeah, because the mom was saying that she met some guy and then asked her to go to Thailand with him or something like that. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I thought she mentioned the repair shop, and I thought she said like the daughter met him when he repaired her phone, and then like the daughter told her that she was going to go to Thailand with him or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Something like that. So that's when the dad kind of like starts noticing when he first hears about like the pattern that he uses, how he like breaks their phone, asks them to go to a repair shop, yada yada yada. So then we cut back to the scene of Donnie's dad. He gets a package. This man, if you know you're not expecting a package, why are you going to go get a package?
I mean, maybe he thought it was one of his neighbors and was trying to do the neighborly thing, like, oh, whose package accidentally came to me. I wouldn't question it. I would do that too. I at least check the name. I would
do that, but like I wouldn't go out in the. I don't know.
It's one of those things where you question, like, oh, I would never do that. But if you really think about it, you probably would have done it.
I'm just thinking, I'm like, would I do that?
You probably would have. I'm not going to cap. Like, I would have done that.
Okay, but here's the thing, though. That box was in the middle of the street.
It was in his front. Like, in front of his gate.
Yeah, which is the street.
I mean, if the post office don't have access to drop it at your front door, if it's the middle of the night because it's locked.
Now that I think about it, that picture was weird. That he just got a picture of a box, right? Like, if you are a delivery person and you're delivering package, the way he took that picture is not that of a delivery person. You get what I'm saying? Like the picture would be so much more closer. Like you're standing right by the thing. His was really far. Do you get what I'm saying?
That's true. I was going to be like, I don't know if Korea delivers their packages differently, but now that you say that makes sense.
Either way, if you're taking a picture, you're close, you know?
Yeah, you're right. Like they're next to the item that they drop off to prove that they have dropped it off at the location you gave them.
Exactly. So. You're not trying to take a portrait. Like, no.
You're not trying to be artistic. Like, here is your package.
Right. You don't get a raise for that.
Oh my God. Child, they probably don't even get, you know what,
but you know what, I
continue.
If I was in his place, I probably wouldn't think like 50 times about it, honestly. You know, the picture I probably would have, because that's abnormal. Anyway, so where were we? Yeah, so he goes to pick up this package, and then like somebody sneaks into his house while he's picking up said package. And then we cut straight to a situation that happens where the police have to close off an entire area because they found like 7 or 8 more bodies. And then cut again back to Nami waking up to her account being hacked, where, there are nasty posts about the company that she works for are made, and how like she got a raise, but it wasn't like a good enough raise and things like that. Basically a whole bunch of like shit talking. And so she runs to her office, and her boss and coworker do not believe that she was hacked. They thought like she actually felt that way. And so she was like fired on the spot. All while
after getting slapped.
Oh yeah, after getting slapped and pushed out. Yeah.
Physically. I'm like, do we always have to resort to like physical handling in K-dramas?
So here are my questions about this secret Instagram account. Why is her Instagram account secret?
Isn't it? I know you said earlier it was about her company, but I thought it was just a food review account in general.
Okay, that's what I thought too earlier, but then it just made it seem like it was about her company.
No, I think it's just a food review in general. Since she's working at a food company, I think they are, she's going to review it as well. But it's one of those things where, like, if she wants to give, I guess, honest reviews, she's going to stay anonymous.
Oh.
Especially if she's popular. That's not uncommon. So there's a lot of things where people, you see the internet now where it's like a fan page or like journalists, whether they don't work with like an actual company and they just want to stay anonymous because the internet thing. Because, now we have this new thing of, like, doxing people, so...
Okay, so that was her private account to just review things honestly.
I believe so, because I don't think it was just her company. I think it was just other stuff in general. She would give, like, an honest, like, blogs, like how they did, like,
yeah. No, that makes sense, because, like, on the... Like, they highlighted, like, they zoom into the part where, like, no sponsored ads or something like that, or no sponsored products. Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So I don't think she's, like, paid or anything.
Okay, that makes sense.
But she wasn't getting paid for it.
But either way, though, the way they handled that whole situation was just, like, really wrong and very unprofessional.
It was, but then you have to remember they're a startup company, so it seemed like this deal was, like, a really big deal. Like, that probably would have, like, built that company. I don't know.
But the thing is, they didn't even try to hear her out, is what I'm saying. Is like, It's very common to get hacked, though. So it's not like it's like a stupid idea or just an excuse. That is something I guess they could have, like, looked into later. But I understand why the boss was really furious, because she had just spoken to her.
Yeah, give her a raise and stuff. And then again, that's probably where, like, they showed it really quick. But even if I had time to read it, that's where, like, me not fully understanding Korean doesn't come in, because I don't know what she actually said,
Yeah.
Like, even from the English translation, what she had probably, or what he had posted pretending to be her could have been a lot harsher and worse than what we think it was, or what was translated to us.
Oh, that's true.
She probably called them all types of names, all types of bitches, like, maybe even, like, accusing them of using something that may be harmful to people. Like, we don't know. Even if we could read Korean, like, naturally, they showed it way too quickly in general. And it was a really long post, too. It was like not even a paragraph. It was like a novel. Okay.
Oh, and also the post had very specific information that was only between her and her boss. That's probably why they were so convinced.
That's another thing, too, because remember, her boss told her to keep the raise a secret from the other coworkers.
Right. Okay. Dang. So, I guess in that situation, I'd understand that it's not a hack and just you trying to weasel out of it. Makes sense.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it was a lot deeper than that, so...
Yeah. So, like, her whole life just, like, fell apart before she even knew it. And so, she got fired, and all this time, Jun-young is watching, and now he knows her boss's name, where she works, her coworker's name, all that jazz. So her friend, Nami and her friend, they go to the police office or the police station, and basically when they go to write a complaint, the police officer was like, do you have proof that you were hacked? You need to come back with evidence so that we can prove that you were hacked and then take steps accordingly. And they were just like, where are we going to get proof? Blah, 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 blah. So they left the police station, and we are then cut to the scene where we see that Nami's dad has, like, tape over him, and we find out that he has been kidnapped.
Yes, by Jun-young himself.
Yes.
Because after he picked up the package and he went back inside, he ambushed him and knocked him out and stuff. Which, I mean, I guess I get the police saying, like, they need evidence. I don't know. I don't really know how hard it is to find, I don't know how hard it is to solve crimes like that, or at the same time, it's just, like, people not wanting to do their jobs. I don't know how it's like in Korea, but, sometimes in America, it's just, like...
laziness.
When they don't want to do their jobs.
Yeah.
Or if it really is just that difficult. And then laws.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, but then we're going to go on to me with the next scene. So I pick up after that. So basically, like Nafis said, we cut to where Woo Jun-young is in her father's house, and he's all tied up. And, like, I don't remember the whole monologue that he's giving him. Do you? The speech?
Something along the lines of, like, I knew you were a creep, blah, blah, blah. Don't hurt my daughter. Stay away from my daughter. And then Jun-young was something...
He put tape over his mouth, though. Or did he tell him that, and then he put the tape over his mouth? Oh, okay.
But then, like, Jun-young, he, like, goes on to this monologue saying that, like, oh, you should have been a better father. And then he's like, you're actually a pretty decent father. There are some fathers who don't even check up on their kids for, like, 7 years. Reference to himself.
Exactly, which is interesting, and we'll get into why that's interesting later.
Yes.
But then we catch up with Inami and Jung Eun-ju the best friend at the cafe, basically trying to brainstorm on how to catch the hacker. And then so they're like, hey, I know a person. Well, Nami's like, hey, I know a person that maybe help. And it is the culprit himself, Chunyoung, who shows up because they call him for help, basically to look into Nami's phone. And I was also very surprised he was basically straight up with them and just be like, hey, your phone is hacked. Like, this is why it happened. You have a spyware in your phone, and like you could see everything. And he even picked up the phone from his laptop to show like how it works. The hacker would be able.
Yeah.
And you don't think that would be suspicious if like you're showing me through a example like you might be the hacker? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do, but I can also see why they don't find it suspicious, because remember, he's the quote unquote digital sheriff. Like, so he deals with things like that at his company.
Okay, I guess.
And remember, it's also the same company that their friend works at. So they kind of had like that, oh, we don't have a reason to, not trust him.
Right. And then after all of that, he basically takes like Nami outside to speak with her. I was going to bring up something and I forgot to write it down. Basically, because when they first get there, the best friend the best friend tells Nami about all the like bodies that they've been finding just in passing because it was on a news report. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I thought that was interesting, even though they didn't harp on it, but that just kind of shows, like something's happening where a lot of people have been getting killed.
Yeah. She had her own problems though.
Yeah. So then like, I also thought this was interesting how like, you haven't known this guy for that long, but yet he was able to convince you to not trust your best friend and say
in a 2-minute conversation.
In a 2-minute, probably not even conversation that like, this can't be placed. What did he say? Remotely. Mm-hmm. If someone physically had to have placed this in your phone, who could have had your phone, who could have been jealous of you. I'm like, wait a minute. Isn't this supposed to be your best friend? I don't know how long they've known each other, but it's like you're trusting a guy you met for 2 minutes over your supposedly drop-dead gorgeous best friend. That's where I'm kind of like, whoa there. I don't know if I want you as a friend, girl.
The reason why he was able to convince her, though, is because she was the only one who knew about the secret account and like the whole like situation.
Right, but like she didn't even give her a chance to be like, it's not me. I feel like she was really...
And she also randomly stayed over that one day. Well, it wasn't random. She had a reason. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Like she should have at least given her a second to like explain herself.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe that's also my naivety, but unless something happened to where I feel like, because it's not even like they work together or anything, or they're like in the same career paths. I just thought it was wild to all of a sudden think now, and you knew she ran the secret account for so long, that she would betray you in a way. And I don't know if she told her, well, she must have, about like the race and stuff, but she was giving her compliments. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's hard to trust people, but I feel like the way they were so close, it was interesting to me how quickly she was able to turn on her.
I think what convinced her though is when he mentioned like she was the only one who had access that night, or like, can you think of anyone who had access to your phone at night? And like she was over that night when everything happened. Not to mention both of them woke up really late because her alarms were turned off. So he's like, yeah, can you think of anyone who would like turn off your alarms or like, purposely make you late, that type of thing.
Yeah, I guess as you say it now, like that, I see it now, but still, again,
like,
I'm just
he just made sure all of the boxes were checked, honestly, is what he did.
Which, I mean, is great because he's been watching them, so he knew exactly what he was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's also his point of like, that's what usually I feel like, well, I don't know, murder victims, but like manipulators do that. You hear that in all stories where like they always make sure their victims are isolated to where when they realize the type of situation they're in, they can't call for help. So that was his plan all along. And then they do end up getting in a big fight. And then like that creepy smile that he had when he saw her like leaving the cafe crying.
I know.
I feel bad for the friend.
And here's the thing though, like Nami wanted her to say, like, just tell me you didn't do it. Just tell me you didn't do it. And the friend just kept not saying that. And I'm like, girl, just say it.
Yeah, that's part of her pride as well. Be like, I can't believe you're actually sitting here accusing me. It's like, you shouldn't have to ask me if I did this or not. You should be able to trust me enough to not accuse me. So why do I need to say I didn't do it? Because even if I did, you're not going to believe me.
Exactly. But I'm glad she said, yeah, I did it, and then walked away.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're already convinced, the fact that the mere fact that you sat here for an hour with a whole sour face, did not talk to me, and then now are just bringing this up. Yeah, you're convinced that I did it? Nah, not going to engage.
Exactly. Nothing I say is going to change your mind because you're already convinced I did it. So
exactly.
So then basically we jump to where the detectives are at the cell phone repair shop, just like looking around, since when they talked to the last victim's mother, they were able to... Did they find out from her where it is, or did the father already know where it was, like the police detective?
He already knew where it was.
Did he already know? He did? Okay, so they just end up actually going over there. And then they run into a regular policeman because I guess Inami was trying to show them like where she got the phone fixed, and that's where they actually meet for the first time. And then through that, they, have a conversation, and basically the detective tells Nami about his son, which leads her to like figure out like who he is.
Very quickly though, before like she ended up at the repair shop, her phone, because one thing that they bring out throughout the movie is like her phone, like battery constantly dying and her trying to charge it up. So it had her phone actually died at that point, and she just threw it across the cafe. And like she had like the epiphany, like, oh my gosh, this all started happening ever since my phone got repaired. So that's when she went back to the repair shop, and then she meets the detectives.
I'm glad you said that because I did not pick that up.
Yeah.
So I did not realize that.
Yeah, so that's when she started connecting the dots.
That makes so much sense. I thought she was just going there to try to prove to the policemen, like, this is where I got my phone fixed to connect the dots.
I mean, probably that too. Yeah, that was the starting point.
That makes more sense, though.
Yeah.
It's like she's smart, and then...
She just does stupid things.
It's that thing where it's like you can be book smart, but not street smart at the same time.
I have met people like that. It's real.
Yeah, no, it truly is real. But yes, and then basically throughout their conversation, I paraphrased a lot, but they figured out that it was him that installed the spyware, and where he said that he worked was a lie. And that he's been watching her the whole time through the phone, just like he told him or told her that he was doing, like someone else was doing, but it was really him.
Yeah.
And then so like basically they devise a plan to, I guess, confront him and use like Nami as like a source. Because as you see, like she texts him and asks him over for dinner. Again, my notes were a little spotty, and I think this is around the time, like, even though this was my part, I was, like, paying attention, but it was kind of late at night, so I was, like, trying to make sure I stayed awake. Yeah, so then, like, she gets ready. She's communicating with the police. As you can see, like, they devised a way to where, like, they're following her, but to make sure, like, no one can detect that they are following her or that anyone else is there. And then this part confused me when I first watched it. It's the part where like he does actually, show up and he's standing outside and he's getting ready, I guess, to go in. And she calls him, right? Nami calls Joo-young first to see where he was. But he doesn't answer because I think he realizes he's being followed. Because there's a point where like he cuts it off, I thought. And then, he holds up the phone to pretend he's looking at it. But then he's using a reflection to see that the police are behind him. Because I thought it was interesting, like when they actually do that, have that confrontation, and when he turns around, you would think the police officer would recognize his own son if that was his son.
Exactly.
So that was kind of like the early plot hole, be like, wait a minute, now you know something's really off. Yeah. Because then his partner starts talking to him. He's like, sorry, we thought you were someone else. And then, he uses that, I don't know who you're looking for. How dare you harass like a normal citizen? I should record you right now and things like that. And it's like, wait. And then I got confused when I first watched this. I'm like, but I thought that was Joo-young. Like, why are you guys pretending he's not him? I don't think he put on... This isn't a Game of Thrones Arya Stark where he put on a different mask. Right. He's a completely different person. And then when y'all leave, he takes off the mask.
All he did was fix his hair and take off his glasses.
Do we ever see like a childhood photo of Joo-young?
No.
Of him wearing glasses? So we don't even know if he... Actually, the real son even wears glasses.
Right. But I'm just saying the only thing so far that he changed about his appearance was like cut his hair a little bit and like take off his glasses. Yeah.
Which doesn't, obviously, if you know a person, minor things like that doesn't change like their whole face.
If this is your child, you know your child. You would recognize their face anywhere, despite what kind of clothing they're wearing.
Exactly.
Or wig or whatever.
Yes. Like you know what your child looks like.
Yeah.
If you've been around them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was confused on the age thing. Like, I want to know when he actually left.
Right.
Because, I mean, you can look different from a child to a grown person, but I feel like it wasn't that significant of a difference to where he would change that drastically. Like, say, if he, like, left at 5 and then you found him again at 30 and things like that. So that I would understand if you don't recognize him. But if he was, like, around a teenager or younger 20s and 7 years, you don't really
see that big of a difference.
Change, in your face that much, whether you like gain weight, lose weight, things like that, unless you have like plastic surgery or something. But yeah, so then that happens and they end him away. He doesn't go into the house, and then they meet up with Nami and they're like, you know, they thought the plan had failed the whole time, but like if they had known who they were looking for, it worked out perfectly. Exactly. So it did work, but it's like confusion that we'll figure out later on. And they're like, I wonder why. Like, he said he was at the front of the house, you know, when he texted, and then all of a sudden he's like, something came up, or he couldn't come. Just a whole confusion through all of them. They basically think they missed Ju Young, and they have to devise another plan to try to catch him. But then I don't know if she said she didn't feel safe to be there, because they end up taking her to her father's house. I don't remember why they end up taking her to his house.
I think they told her that she needed to go somewhere
with another person
in case like he comes back. Yeah. So just for like safety measures, is there anyone that you could go to? Thinks of her best friend, and she's like, "Nah, that's dead." And so she goes to her dad's house.
And that's when she switches phones, right? Before they go.
Yeah. So they were on the rooftop discussing it, and she's like, "Don't worry, I don't have my phone. He can't hear me. Blah blah blah." And then she's like, "Oh, I have another phone. I'll use that to communicate with you guys." And so they're like, okay, fine. They devise their plan. And like, that's when they like drop her off.
Because that's why I was getting confused if the spyware he planted was physical or not. But there is a point where she downloads another link, right? Did she think it was from her father? Now that you said that, pointed that out earlier. Because he was able...
She downloads another link?
See, that's what I thought. I thought she downloaded another link, but this whole time I thought the spyware was in the chip, because when she transfers phones, he was still able to hack the new phone. So I didn't think you'd be able to do that unless the spyware was in the SIM card itself. But another part of me feels like I missed something.
You know, there could be different versions of that same thing.
Of what, the app?
So it is possible that for her, since he had access to her SIM card, he put it directly in it. And then with the dad, he just sent a link. So it is possible.
I'm still confused on the whole thing. And it's like, I feel like even if I watched this another third time, I still wouldn't understand it.
Just the technology part of it, yeah.
But yes, and then she thinks, you know, her father is like sleeping in the bed. Because then I thought he starts texting her. I put in my notes like he starts texting her and messaging her, and then when he starts doing stuff in her phone, like when I think he either not recorded. He had shown herself on the phone, and then when she started typing stuff in, he was deleting it. So that's how she knew like he was in this phone as well. Because that what causes her to run into her father's room and realize like it was a bunch of pills to make it look like he was sleeping. He wasn't actually there.
Wait, say that again? When did this happen?
When she got to her father's house, she went to his room, and it looked like you know, like in old shows where they put pillows together to make it look like someone's sleeping with the covers over their head.
Oh, yeah.
So she went into, I guess, what her room is like. It must have been like a childhood house.
Yeah.
And then that's where I was like, once you said it was an app, I'm like, I feel like someone or something texted her to re-download the app. Because then Ju Young starts actually communicating with her. And I forgot what he had said to make her realize... I'm missing something.
She turned on her phone. Okay. Yeah. She turned on her phone, and he texts her. He's like, "Oh, I see you got a new phone. Me too. Me too." And he sends her his new number, and he was like, "Call me or text me or something." And that is when she like freaked out, like for sure.
Then he starts manipulating the phone. Like I said, he turned it around and showed like a video of herself, and then when she was going to start calling the police people, he was deleting it and things like that. That's what made her run into her father's room to try to alert him, and then she realized he's not actually in there. So
And then when she comes back to the living room, he peeps out. This was creepy. He peeps out with his little phone.
So he's playing a clip of them in the car. So at first she only hears her father's voice, and she's like, "Dad, are you in here?" And then when she runs into the living room, that's what he like slowly creepily. And I thought it was like. I thought it was like a robot type thing, like an automated like thing that he used to put the phone on to lift it up until he popped up. And I was like, oh no, he's still in the house. I forgot that's where he went to hide, was in her house.
Yeah.
So all that, he was playing the recording of them talking in the car, basically warning her about him. And it's like, oh, you should listen to your father. I am not good news. Yeah, and then basically taunting her like the whole time. Basically says like he'll play a game, I think, with her. Like if someone's able to contact her within the next 24 hours, then he'll let her live, even though we know that's not true. And of course, he cut off all the ties to make sure that wasn't true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he also makes her text the detectives to tell them, like, everything's okay, don't check up on me, I will contact you in the morning so they don't get suspicious. And then at the same time that is happening, that's when we find out one of the really big plot twists, which we were kind of already hinted at, that the detectives, when they're heading back to the station, they get a phone call from someone that works there. And it must be someone with that. You said they work with the missing people's unit? Okay.
Yeah.
So it must be one of their colleagues. So basically, he had told him that he had ran a DNA test on Ujimon to see if anyone comes up as missing, I guess to put his DNA in the system, but then it ended up matching with an unidentified body that they had found in the reserve a year ago. So that's where they're like, wait, because his partner first told him, they're saying that they found your son, but it's not what you think it is. And they're like, where is he? Is he, somewhere? Is he with his mother? Did she put him like in a secret hideout? And then after that is when they turn around and go to back to Nami's house. Because I don't know if he had saw the text. We saw the phone on the floor of her texting him, but we don't know if he actually had saw it because he was too busy on the phone talking to the person and the detective. So then a little bit later on, when Do-young is still talking to Nami, he like goes to the bathroom for some odd reason, and then like she follows him and then realizes that her father is actually in there, tied up in the bathtub.
Before he goes there, she has like this little paper in her hand, and like for some reason when they're like talking, she's like frustrated and she throws this paper on the ground.
Yeah.
That paper becomes important a little later.
Because I couldn't remember how he found the paper or not. But yeah, she throws it at him. Because I think she was secretly trying to get the knife like out of her back pocket. But I think he knew she had it there. So I don't know if she did that because he was telling her like, don't bother trying to stab me with the knife I know you have hiding back there. Yeah. But yes, and then we get to the scene in the bathroom, and he makes her tie herself up. And this is what happens when I don't go into detail with my notes, because I didn't write down what he said to her. But he basically starts like, turning on the water. I don't know if she had said something to like make him mad, or he was just doing it for fun. Like, you listen to me, but I'm not going to listen to you anyway. And then, she starts cussing him out, which shocked me. I was like, oh, dang, I didn't know she had a mouth on her.
So they had like an exchange of words. I don't remember what the words were, but like she tells him like, hey, I kept my side of the bargain. Like, I kept my word. You should keep your word too. And so he's like, yeah, I am keeping my word. Proceeds to turn on faucet. And then she starts crying and like basically groveling, telling him to stop. And so he stops eventually when she's like, I'm sorry.
She cusses him out first.
Yeah. But then she apologizes and she's like, I'm sorry, I apologize. And then like he turns it off. And then she goes, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I'll let you finish your part.
I'm trying to figure out where to leave off on that, because I don't remember also after she's apologizing what happened, because he just ends up putting her in there anyway, and then
no, yeah. So she apologizes and she's like, I'll do anything you want me to do. And he's like, oh, anything? And she's like, yes, I'll do anything. And then he goes, this sadistic and he goes, okay, why don't you kill him? And then he just drops her into the tub. And because of her weight, so it's either like she survives or the dad survives, because like there's
none of them survive, because he leaves the faucet on. She's also,
Right. But like it was kind of like a situation, if the faucet was not on, like only one of them would be able to like come up. But because he left the faucet on, like her body weight was crushing him down. And then eventually she also was submerged
into the water. So honestly, I feel like either way, it was for both of them to die.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I'm sure she wouldn't have sacrificed herself if she ended up, killing the father along. So then he goes back into the living room, basically just leaving them in there to meet their demise. And then Ji-young ends up picking up the note that Nami threw at him. And then he opens it up and then he reads where it said, call them, don't text them. So then he realized his mistakes too quick because he made her text the police officers, don't check up on me. And when they got a text, they knew something was wrong because she's supposed to call them instead. But then they show up.
I don't know if we mentioned this, but when they were dropping her off, in front of the dad's house, that's when she stuck up the little note that said no text, calls only.
Yes.
That part. They didn't say any of that. They just had a visual.
That's why she wrote it, so they wouldn't physically say it in case he was listening. Yeah. I didn't mention that because I forgot. It's not that we missed it, it's that I forgot. So, but yes, the feast has a point. That's why it was written on the note in the first place when she got dropped off, so they knew. It wasn't verbally exchanged. It was on the note the whole time, and she just kept the note. Which I'm surprised she didn't give it to them so they would remember. But I mean, I guess they're supposed to be police and remember something that important.
No, it was just a ploy to move the story along.
I guess. So basically when they show up, they confront him. The partner, Kim Jung-ho, goes and runs and looks for them and then finds them in the bathroom. And then he pulls them out of the bathtub and is basically giving her father CPR to resuscitate him. Because I'm assuming at that point he had either passed out or stopped breathing. I don't know how long he was under that.
I think it was assumed he was dead.
Okay. Then Ujiman basically confronts, I call him now the fake Jun Young, and is beating him up, asking him where his son is. And then that's where he basically confessed that he had met the son a year ago. So the body they found was his son. So he was impersonating his son this whole time.
His son. Yeah.
That's why he didn't recognize him when they first confronted on the street. Because I'm not your son. Dun, dun, dun.
And this is one thing that they did really good with the detail, the psychopath, when they wrote his character. Remember how I was because of they planted a plum tree and everything? Yeah, he knew that information, so he just played the part really well.
Because like we said, I don't know if you also mentioned this in part 1, but because all of his victims, he writes down handwritten notes about their traits and stuff. He'll write down questions oh, this is the best friend. Yes. Da da da. They go so and so, and then he'll even write down questions should I do this to them? Should I torture them in this way? So the information that he brought over to Nami's house was about his son that the detective found in the bag, and it had his name victim so and so, and his name.
Make him a murderer.
He's doesn't have a relationship with his father, left 7 years ago, mother is sick. Should I take his identity and become him? And then he also finds another phone where we didn't mention earlier where he likes to take pictures of his victims after they've passed. So the screensaver, literally when the phone comes up, is of his son. Gone. There's no life in those eyes. You see one eye and then half of his half of his face is in water, excuse me. And you can tell it was freshly taken after the life was out of him.
Yeah.
And then that's when all hell breaks loose. I mean, I know he was already beating him up, but then he takes out his gun, contemplating of whether he should kill him or not. But then something happens to where Nami kind of starts getting consciousness, and she looks over and sees her father getting CPR, wondering if he's gonna live or not, and it's just all in slow motion, which I thought this part was pretty good too, just to show her snapping, and then she looks over because she can see where he's on the floor all bloody and stuff from being beat up.
And I think he stopped moving at one point, his head just
I think he was laughing, and then he just happened to look at her, and he smiled at her, and that's when she was oh, enough is enough. And so
he looked at her. Yeah, he looked up at her and he was like, what? Yeah. He just mouthed it.
What are you going to do? So she did something. That was the personification of, oh, you don't think I'm going to do anything? Well, watch this. You're going to F around and find out. So
that was the first time I saw fear in that boy's eyes.
Exactly. So when the
rightfully so
partner is giving CPR, I don't think they show when she takes it, but she ends up taking his gun, slowly walks over there and, did the deed that the father couldn't.
Officer couldn't.
Why? I'm not sure. But yeah, it just took 2 shots to the stomach.
He didn't die, though.
He didn't die, because the next scene we go to the news reports. You know, kind of like how the beginning, it's like a full circle of like showing everyone.
Before the news reports, the second like she shoots him, her dad
wakes up,
wakes up and comes back
so
to
then
life.
She goes back over there and then like, you know, hugs him and all that.
Yeah.
Which is great. So he didn't end up dying.
Yeah, or else she would have been charged with murder. Like,
again, I don't know how the laws work over there.
Well, actually, I don't know if she would, because the officer took the gun from her. So he would have made it seem like he did it instead of her.
I don't know how their law works, so I don't know how their self-defense law
No, that
works.
was like an actual scene. Like he took the
I know, but I'm
gun
saying
from her.
like I don't know how their laws work, if she would have even gotten
For
charged
defense?
or not. Yeah, I don't know what their self-defense laws are like. So I can't comment on that, because I also thought that was interesting, but that might be something in the law that I'm unaware of.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I was saying earlier was like we go back into like a full circle, basically like at the beginning scene of everyone, like just regular people on their phones going up and down the subway, taking the bus, things like that. And then they're reporting on, you know, the incident that happened. And, they don't usually give out names. I think after every crime, they always label like victim A or victim B or things like that.
Yeah.
And talking about the situation. And yes, we find out that fake Jun Young he's recovering. He hasn't woken up yet. But I also thought it was interesting because he's basically an unidentified man. There's like no records of him. I don't know if you knew that. They didn't know who he was, and they wouldn't be able to.
He wasn't registered at birth.
I'm like, wait,
how did he live?
How did they get away with that though? I'm like, I don't think he was supposed to be like a foreigner. I'm pretty sure he was supposed to be like a born and raised Korean man. I don't know. I thought that part was interesting. I don't know. So like, we don't actually ever find out who he is or his name. Anything. He's just an unidentified man who apparently was just killing for fun, and they said they'll try to look more into it when he actually wakes up. I guess maybe to question him. But yeah, and then basically the very last scene is Nami at the cafe. Well, you see a bunch of like texts and like people talking about the situation, going back and forth. And there's one where it talks about, I forgot her fake Instagram like screen name, but they're like, I'm in the cafe where so and so works, and they're like, what? I don't believe you. And he goes to take a picture to show proof for his friend, and then like Nami like is laughing with her father and her best friend, so I guess they made up. And then like she gets this weird look in her face and looks in the direction of the camera like she knew someone was going to take a picture of her, and then that's where the movie ends. So yeah I mean, happy kind of story, I guess. He was caught, he survived. Nami's not in jail for shooting him. Don't know what happened to the detective or his wife, because obviously he would have to tell her son is dead and she is already sick. So I wonder how that worked. We don't know if they had a funeral for him. I'm sure they did. But
the fact that she was sending him like banchan and everything to like all the different addresses that he sent, impersonating the son, is just wow.
It's sad, but at the same time, like, she thought that was her child, so she's gonna help her child in any way to make sure he survives. And that's probably why the report earlier on in the movie that you talked about of him saying, for fraud, he filed a police report for like money being taken out of his car for fraud, because it was the fake Ju Young when he was torturing him.
He took the money.
Since he was a victim. That's how he gets them first, hacks their stuff, goes into like their personal lives. I wonder how he killed him, like what lured him to like be led, especially out there. Like, was he killing them out there, or was he killing them somewhere else and then dragging their bodies out there? I don't know. Again, a lot of questions. I'm sure it's not important, but I'm just curious.
I just wish they went into the backstory between the investigator and his son a little bit more. And then just like basically a quick, like, how did they meet? Like, how did the impersonator and the son meet, Because the way they make the son seem in the movie is that he's not somebody that can kill somebody.
But that's another thing too. It was crazy to me from the beginning when he had found the plant, like the plum tree that they planted, that he automatically assumed that he was the killer. So that's why I want to know what happened to where he thought his son was the killer. Like, he didn't hesitate to think his son was the killer. He didn't try to think it was like a friend or anything. He automatically thought it was him. So it's like, what happened? Why would a parent automatically think their son was capable of that?
Yeah.
Because the fake Joo-young had to tell him that his son couldn't hurt a fly. So why do you think he was capable of murder?
He could. Yeah. Yeah, there, like I said, more emphasis on that backstory I think would have made a little more sense as far as like the plot is concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overall, though, I think the message has been sent loud and clear. Be careful of your technology. Be careful of your phone. Do not drink if you're going to drink in public. Hello, make sure you have all your things with you.
I'm surprised she
do not lose your phone.
In like a purse or something.
Right. Yeah. And like she was just traveling back by herself. But I think that's very normal for like people to travel back by themselves.
And
especially if it's like on a bus.
Like Korea, and like I'll applaud her for not like having a car and doing like anything stupid like drunk driving.
Yeah.
From all the stupid reports I see of like, for instance, K-pop idols who just be out drinking and then they decide to drunk drive. It's like, no, take a bus or call somebody.
Right. Your transportation system is pretty good there. You have options.
Hello, or because don't they have places like arcade places where it's basically 24 hours? Like, don't be ashamed to go rent out like one of those gaming places and just take a quick nap. I would do that.
Or you can go to those like sauna places too.
Or like even the comic book. There's just so many options. There's so many options.
Yeah. There's no need to drunk drive.
I don't know if there's a saying of walk of shame like there is here, but just take the walk of shame because you're saving not only your life, but someone else's.
Others, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like, one other thing that kind of like I wish we knew more of is like, I guess we kind of touched on this, but like the psycho as a person.
I want to know who he was.
Like his background story. Like where did he come from?
His weird, random.
Why? How did he pick his people other than like their phone? You know, like why does he choose to go? Because there's no way out of all these years he only picked 8 people. Like, you know, that doesn't make sense.
I think this was part of, like, he's just a psychopath of it's just random and he just does this for fun. I think they were just trying to give the impression like he doesn't really truly have a motive except for boredom.
Yeah.
I also wanted to know how he afforded places because did they pay him to have their phone fixed? No, because I think every time they're like, oh, like someone dropped it off and they fixed it for free. So how is he affording certain stuff?
Right. Maybe he does have actual customers, but like these are the special ones, you know?
I don't know.
Which again goes back to how do you pick your people if all of these people are coming to get their phones fixed?
It didn't seem like he had a job. And then again, if he did have a job, how would he have gotten a job personating as, did he steal like his identifications and all that? Like social security numbers, ID cards?
He probably did.
Okay.
He probably did. Like his victims, he probably bled them dry before, you know, they died.
I also want to know like who he was impersonating before he decided to impersonate Joo-young, you know, to survive.
Yeah.
Because he's obviously been doing this for a very long time. And Joo-young was killed a year ago.
Exactly. Maybe he was just himself. Who knows?
If he was just himself, then they would have been able to identify him at the hospital without having to wait for him to wake up.
That's true. I don't know. If they ever decide to do like a part 2 of this movie, I would like that to be the emphasis.
I mean, like I said earlier, the book that it's, you know, based off of, they did a part 1 and 2 in the Japanese film. So I don't know if they're going to do a part 2 for this. But I wouldn't be surprised if they don't.
Yeah, I think this is a good, one-time watch. Probably wouldn't want to watch it again just because of like all the plot holes and everything.
Yeah, I only had to watch it again for this, so.
Yeah. But overall, I'd rate this like a 4 out of 5. It kept me glued, like I was paying attention.
Okay, at first you said 4, and I was like, don't we usually do out of 10?
Oh, so that'd be like 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I give it an 8 out of 10. No, actually, I bumped that to 8.5 out of 10, just because I did learn quite a few things.
Okay. I think I would give this either a 7 or a 7.5 out of 10. I think the plot holes just bothered me a little bit more than it needed to.
Too many?
Yeah, I really just wanted to know what happened between the father and the son. And I feel like that would have made more sense of why he suspected him to be the killer. That was just the main thing that bothered me. Not like why they were estranged or anything, just why you would automatically assume
your child is it. I think it would have been better though if like the main storyline was the detective storyline and Nami's was like secondary.
Yeah, and hers not being
Because
the
that would have
main
been,
one.
yeah, that would have made way more sense. And more of like a cohesive like story too.
Yeah. And I don't know if that was because we're trying to show like the lack of awareness we have with our technology, maybe, to focus more on her story.
Could be.
But I do see what you mean. It would have been interesting if it was switched.
Yeah. But I also think if they did, so I guess it's a double-edged sword. Like if they did it like that, then I guess maybe we wouldn't have reflected as much as like, oh my gosh, it could technically happen to us. Whereas if it was like the detective story, it's like something that has already happened. It's like, oh, this is just another case. But like with her, we kind of lived every part of it with her.
That's true.
You know?
I'm still going to give it, I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think also just because both parts, because it's like 2 hours, I was starting not lose interest, but I was just like.
I think they could have better used those 2 hours.
And they also cut it off like very abruptly, like after he had kidnapped them and stuff, to where he just shot and then over. I don't know. Like, maybe I was a little bit more interested to see like the aftermath, because I mean, yes, life does go on after stuff like that, but I wanted to see like how, and it was surprising to me how quickly she was able to, I mean, it could be like a front that she's putting up, but just be out comfortable to like be out and stuff like that. Because they also don't give us a timeline, so I don't know how long it actually took, like after the whole incident. If it was a couple months, if it was just a few days after, you know.
That's true.
But then again, I just could be that person who just looks too much into it and I just need to watch the movie.
Yeah. No, I understand what you mean. Like having some sort of timeline helps.
Yeah. I could just be nitpicky like that though. But yeah, that was all from us, guys. I hope you enjoyed it.
Please follow us on our socials. At I Was Thinking Pod.
On Instagram and social media, or not social media, oh my god, on Instagram and Twitter. Those are social medias. You can also listen to us on YouTube if you like to listen to podcasts on YouTube at I Was Thinking Pod or Podcast. I don't remember the actual handle. You can follow me on TikTok at Simonetta Says _ Again, I mostly talk about K-pop, BTS, but y'all should know by now if you've listened to us for this long. What else? You can email us at iwasthinkingpod@gmail.com for any questions or suggestions on episodes. Rate us, whatever the highest ratings are, whether they're 5 stars, 5 apples, 5 squares. We would really appreciate it, because we don't really get a lot of interactions. Again, I know people listen to us, but it would be nice to know that you guys listen to us. Furthest comments we usually get are the spam bots on Instagram. So, is there anything else am I missing?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay, well, yes, I've been Simone. That's been The Feast. Will we be back? I don't know. But just look out for the next episode. And we hope you have a lovely day, week, month, all that good stuff. So bye, guys.
All right, bye. Bye.